Hi friends, I'm Jovas Madampisseril Joshua. Today I'm here to take a topic, flow of auditing. What is the flow of auditing? Actually, we know various concepts in auditing, like the basic concepts. We know the audit procedures, how to conduct an audit, and we know how to report, and various other aspects coming under auditing. But do we actually know what are the process that is happening behind all these audit procedures and various other concepts? So we have to know and we have to get an understanding on these concepts to get a clarity on what we are actually doing. To understand that, we have to know what is the flow of audit. For example, if we are taking a car, yes, a driver will be driving a car. He'll pedal the accelerator, pedal the brake to stop the car. And if it's a manual car, then he'll have to use the clutch. Yes, right? So actually, is the driver driving the car, or is there any other process that being held or being conducted behind these manual? Yes, actually, the driver is just manuering the car in the steering, pedaling the accelerator, brake, etc. Is just manuering the car. Actually, the process is done behind. So similarly, in auditing, yes, we'll be conducting the audit procedures, we'll be conducting various other techniques and all, but there are certain aspects that we have to know before doing all this process. So let's see what are the process or what is the flow of audit. Now, flow of audit. The first thing that is happening is that a chartered accountant will be met by a client, and the client will approach him to conduct the audit of that client's company. So actually, is the chartered accountant going to the client's place, the client's entity, and start audit? No, there are certain procedures to be conducted before starting an audit. So what are these procedures? First thing is the relevance of SA 210. The auditor and the client must agree to the terms of the engagement letters. There are certain engagement letter conditions and preconditions, etc. Those preconditions must exist and they must mutually agree to the terms of the engagement. So that is an important aspect as per SA 210. Agree to the terms of engagement letter. That is the first aspect. Then comes very important aspect. This have to be done when an auditor, when a chartered accountant is being freshly appointed to that company. What is that procedure? Communicate with the predecessor auditor. Auditor has to communicate with the predecessor auditor. What is the predecessor auditor? He was that auditor. There is an auditor who was previously conducting audit in that entity. So the auditor have to communicate with that predecessor auditor, though that outgoing auditor, regarding what? Just inquiring, just communicating with the predecessor auditor that whether the auditor himself was facing any sort of problems with the client. So we are analyzing how the client relationship was with the predecessor auditor. So whether the ethical requirements or the independence were being compromised. So we are just inquiring or communicating with the predecessor auditor in writing regarding all this, because we are going to audit that entity. So we have to understand the entity and its environment as per SA 315. So we are conducting a small procedure. We have to conduct more other procedures. Just we are conducting a small procedure before accepting an audit with the predecessor audit. Next comes the relevance of SA 220, quality control for an audit of financial statements. So here we are analyzing how the client was. So if we were the auditor in the previous year, So we don't have the responsibility or the duty to communicate with the predecessor auditor because we were the previous auditor. So, but we have to analyze SA 210 whether they need any changes in the engagement letter or the conditions of the engagement letter. And we are checking SA 220 applicability or the relevance of SA 220. Why? We are just analyzing whether client relationship is acceptable. We are analyzing the client relationship. Oh, yes, previous year we audited the entity and we had a relationship with the management and the client, and whether it can be continued, whether the client is enabling us to conduct the audit in an effective and efficient manner. So we have to analyze that. So first aspect is certain preliminary engagement activities. Clear? This is the first step. Step 1. Then the step 2, planning and audit. Here, SA 300 comes into picture. An auditor is planning an audit. How will the auditor plan an audit? He'll conduct audit strategy. Then on the basis of that audit strategy, he'll prepare a detailed audit plan. And on the basis of that plan, he will prepare an audit program, how the audit need to be conducted, a written program. So these aspects are covered in SA 300. So the auditor gets an idea on how to plan an audit. He will first of all set a strategy. On that strategy, he'll prepare a more detailed audit plan, and that strategy and audit plan will be prepared in a written program, which is called an audit program. On that basis, on the basis of audit program, the audit will be conducted. Okay, so planning an audit have 3 steps. 1, preparing an audit strategy, then preparing an audit plan, then setting up an audit program. Yes, this will be a written audit program. So first of all, we learned the preliminary engagement activities. In that, we have to comply to relevant essays, SA 210, agreeing to the terms of engagement letter, and SA 220, quality control for an audit of financial statements. In that aspects, we have to check client relationship, acceptance or continuance of client relationship. Then if we are appointed as a new auditor in that particular entity, then we have to communicate with the predecessor auditor mandatorily. Okay. Then the second step is planning an audit. We have to plan an audit before the start of audit. So to plan an audit, we have to comply with certain essays, SA 300 mainly, planning an audit of financial statements. In that, we have to prepare audit strategy and an audit plan on the basis of that audit strategy, and we will prepare a written program called audit program. Then comes step 3. Here we are actually starting our audit. All these were certain preliminary activities or certain procedures which we are conducting before the start of audit to ensure that audit is going to be conducted in an effective and efficient manner. So how we'll be starting our audit? Yes, by conducting various audit procedures. Actually, there are 3 main concepts of audit procedures, which cannot be explained in this video. It is a more detailed concept. We can just give a brief idea. 3 main concepts. One is nature, timing, and extent of risk assessment procedures as per SA 315. Then nature, timing, and extent of further audit procedures as per SA 330, and nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures, okay, which an auditor is conducting. So mainly there are three types of audit procedures that an auditor can conduct in an audit. Nature, timing, and extent of further audit procedures, which is conducted as per SA 330. And nature, timing, and extent of risk assessment procedure, which is conducted as per SA 315. And uh, nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures, which an auditor is conducting. Okay, other than these two. Only these? No. So in the process of risk assessment procedures, in the process of further audit procedures, other audit procedures, etc., the auditor will be conducting certain audited techniques to obtain evidence as per SA 500. What is that? Re-performance, recalculation, analytical procedures, inspection, inquiry, observation, external confirmation, etc. So all these procedures, the auditor will be conducting along with these techniques. So the auditor will be conducting various procedures for what? For what purpose? The auditor is conducting these procedures, these many techniques, etc. in an audit to obtain audit evidence. So next aspect is obtaining audit evidence. Audit evidence is obtained on the basis of audit procedures conducted by the auditor. So audit procedures, further audit procedures, risk assessment procedures, and various other procedures along with the audit techniques the auditor will conduct to obtain audit evidence. And audit evidence is of three types. We have to analyze the relevance of audit evidence. We have to analyze whether the audit evidence we obtained is sufficient, okay, sufficiency of audit evidence. Then we have to analyze whether the audit evidence that we have obtained is appropriate, so appropriateness of audit evidence. And there are many factors that we have to consider when we obtain an audit evidence, whether it is relevant, whether it is sufficient, whether it is appropriate. So various factors are also included in those concepts. Step 5, we will reach conclusion. See, in SA 230, audit documentation, the definition in itself says the audit documentation is the record of audit procedures performed, audit evidences obtained, and the conclusions reached thereon by the auditor. So from that itself, we can understand that there is some flow of audit, or there is something in connection with these procedures. What is that? Auditor will conduct various procedures. On that procedures, he'll be obtaining audit evidence. Yes, as per SA 500, we are conducting various techniques, various procedures to obtain audit evidence. So to obtain audit evidence, we have to conduct audit procedures. And from that audit procedures, we get audit evidence. And on the basis of that audit evidence, we'll check whether it is sufficient, appropriate, relevant, etc. And on that basis, we'll reach the conclusion. So conclusion is an essential part because the auditor is forming an opinion on the basis of audit conclusions reached by the auditor. Now, the auditor is moving to the second last part, which is opinion. Yes, on the basis of conclusion, he'll be reaching an opinion. The auditor will be forming an opinion as per SA 700, forming an opinion and reporting on the financial statements. So, before obtaining the opinion, the auditor must analyze whether he has reached or he has a reasonable assurance about that opinion. Whether he has formed an opinion which is reasonable, on which he can give a reasonable assurance, because that is the fundamental or the basic objective an auditor must achieve as far as a 200 to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. So these aspects an auditor must consider while forming an opinion. And if the auditor is considering that the opinion is reasonable, and on that opinion he can give a reasonable assurance, then the auditor will move to the last and final stage of auditing, which is step 7, and that is audit report. On the basis of this opinion, he'll be giving the report as per SS 700, 701, 705, and 706. Okay, if there is any modification, then he will go on to SS 705. Okay, so on that aspects, he will be giving an audit report. So, as a student, you have to understand what are the procedures done behind an audit, or what are the basic concepts that is done before these all procedures. So it's not just we are learning certain concepts as per as a 200, 210, 220, then various standards, etc., then various procedures, then we are going learning about various audit report, etc. No, it should be just that you have to understand all these concepts. Yes, these are happening in an audit. If you understand what are happening in these in the audit, then you will get a clear idea on what you are studying. So now if you see, there are just 7 concepts on which audit is conducted: the preliminary engagement activity, planning an audit, then conducting various procedures, and obtaining various audit evidence on the basis of conducting the audit procedures, then obtaining the audit conclusion based on the audit evidences obtained, then forming an opinion on the basis of the conclusion, and if that opinion is reasonable and whether the auditor can conclude, if he can give a reasonable assurance, then he'll report in his audit report. If you see, we have covered majority of the chapter in CA Inder just now. So now we, to understand all these topics, just you will be going in deeper to analyze various aspects and various standards in auditing. That we have to do from our part. But if you know this is being done in an audit, it will be simple. So I humbly request you all to just go through the flow of audit and just get an understanding on how audit is conducted, so that you can learn auditing in a more interesting manner. You just need not by heart or mug up any of the things in audit, because even though it is a theory subject, it is a practical oriented subject. So I hope this session was interesting and understandable. This is Jovas Madampisseril Joshua signing off. Thank you.